Hello and welcome to episode 147 of the Mark and Me podcast. As always, I'm your host Mark. Joining me on today's episode is a director, an upcoming director who's just released a brand new film called Great White. So anything to do with sharks, you know I'll be all over it. Today I'm joined by Martin Wilson. Truly, this is one of my favourite interviews that I've done this year. It's so much fun, there's so much energy, and we hit it off from the moment we talk. It is on another level to most of my recent episodes, and I absolutely adore it, so I can't wait to share it with you in just a couple of minutes' time. But you know the score by now. I like to use the introduction of the Mark and Me podcast to discuss the previous episode, and I was joined by the amazing RJ Mitty. We got to talk all about his brand new film Triumph. Obviously we were going to talk Breaking Bad, and my god, it went crazy. This episode blew up, one of my most downloaded episodes, and honestly the response was phenomenal. Everyone loved it, everyone loved him, everyone loved the episode, so hey, I'm absolutely thrilled. So thanks to everyone that tuned in and listened to that interview. But back to today's episode. I mean it, it's one of my favourite episodes I've ever done. I really love this from start to end and can't wait to get to it. So let's do just that. Here's me and Martin Wilson talking all things movies. So Martin, thanks for joining me today on the Mark and Me podcast.
Mark, it is great to talk to you, mate.
What I want to do today is there will be some listeners that will be tuning in for the first time, and they'll probably want to get an idea about how you became the person you are today. So I want to take it right back to the very start. Do you remember when you were growing up those first sort of videotapes you may have rented, or the films you watched with your parents that made you fall in love with film?
Yeah, it's an awesome question because I watched the Magnificent Seven, obviously after the Seven Samurai, but the 1961 with Steve McQueen and Yul Brynner, and that just became my favorite movie, and it just sucked me in. And I just love westerns and another Steve McQueen film, The Great Escape. I love that film. So I just got hooked into genre westerns and war films, which was growing up in Perth, West Australia. That's what you watched on a Saturday afternoon or Saturday night. These films are on, and I just really started with all these films that were on TV basically, and got sucked into watching those types of films and those sort of anti-hero 60 characters like Steve McQueen or Paul Newman. I just love these guys, Cool Hand Luke and things like that, HUD and these other films. So I got really caught up in those films that were on TV that were shown in when I was a kid, and then I started to get into John Carpenter, and I started to love every in particular Escape from New York and The Thing, and Big Trouble in Little China. So these films I just wore out the VHS when we actually had VHS tapes at the video shop, and I just fell in love with Kurt Russell and the characters and the entertainment of those films, and the wit and the suspense, and how well crafted they were, the old style visceral filmmaking, and they really took you on a journey. And as we were discussing, that scene where with the blood, and they were trying to find out who was the thing in The Thing, those sort of scenes are so iconic and really hard to replicate, and they just had this atmosphere, and the music and the in-camera effects, and of course Kurt Russell's character of JJ McCready. Just as a kid, those sort of films really sort of sit with you. And then in Australia, I love Mad Max.
Yeah.
So Dr. George Miller, I love the first Mad Max, and in particular Mad Max 2, which was The Road Warrior. That is a very cool movie. All in camera, and just so the chase sequence at the end was just amazing. And he's a very gifted filmmaker, and he and I obviously I love Hitchcock and all of his stuff with North by Northwest. I love all the films he did, and then of course Spielberg as well. As a kid, I loved Raiders of the Lost Ark, I think it's a great movie, and of course Jaws. So all those type, and Jewel, I love Jewel, the truck movie. I
Yeah.
think that's all these movies that are like pure cinema, and they're sort of less dialogue and great set pieces and action pieces and great music and all the things that we like about movies.
So at this age, you're watching literally some of the best classics that even today hold up. There's the stuff like The Thing in the 80s and Jaws in the
Mm.
70s. Were you like taking note that these are like practical effects at the time, or were you just a kid enjoying it, or were you actually thinking, wow, this is amazing? Because it wasn't all green screen, it wasn't all CGI, and these films now I still think hold up because of this.
I totally agree. I mean, so if you look at Raiders of the Lost Ark, which was Spielberg at his best, he was trying to prove himself after was it 1941? So he just went bang, I'm just going to get everything quick and fast, but in the camera.
Yeah.
And you look at that movie with amazement now because it does hold up so well. And then you look at Indiana Jones 4, and which is more CGI and the ant sequence and that. And so you go, wow, like it's a bit of a change in philosophy and direction. But I love that visceral 80s stuff, where it really was. They didn't have the technology, so they were very resourceful. And it was all in camera, and it's great, isn't it? Like you really get caught up in the filmmaking and the cleverness and their atmospherics that they were forced to generate. And so they didn't get. I don't think they got lazy. They couldn't afford to be lazy. They had to rely on, again, also probably what you didn't see as well. So your imagination is evoked, and that's very powerful. And those guys really knew how to pull those strings.
Watching the kind of the behind the scenes documentaries on these, or the background stuff, what I really love about it is the detail and passion that went into it. So the building designs and the actual modeling, and if you watch stuff like behind the scenes of Gremlins, all the puppetry, now it would all be CGI and it would look shit in 10 years time. We're talking about Indiana Jones and the crystal skull. It looks shit. The whole scenes with the aliens and the monkeys in the forest and the ants, it's just terrible. And you go back and watch the Goonies now and Lost Boys and Gremlins, it all still looks classic because it's the time and detail and passion went into it.
Well, I totally agree, and I love watching those films, and I love watching the behind the scenes because like you get involved in filmmaking. Sometimes you do have hard days of like, wow, when's your next film going to be made, and all these things that seem to be in the air. And then you go back and you watch the passion of these guys, and it gets you reinvigorated again, and you jump out of bed in the morning. There's a great documentary on, I think it was made in the UK, about Fright Night. Have you seen that? It's an incredible.
It's by a group of guys that are from the UK, and they're doing a new documentary at the moment on RoboCop called RoboDoc.
Yeah. But I love that documentary. The passion of those guys.
Yeah.
And all the model makers and stuff is incredible. So I'm so glad you mentioned that, because I do watch that just to try and, get, make sure you keep falling in love with filmmaking, because it can be tough.
So you're watching all these amazing films, you're rewatching these videos so they wear out. At what point was it that you thought to yourself, maybe you could try and get involved in making this a full-time job?
Yeah, well, I just went to university and did commerce, and just obviously I was floundering and just started watching, and they had film courses there that ran alongside you could just do them. And I started doing those courses and doing a lot better because I had passion in it. And then I just kept chipping away at it. And then I suffered from chronic fatigue. So I was sort of bedridden for 2 years. So all I did was watch movies, more movies, and I just had to follow it through. So I just started getting better, and then working as a runner, and be a terrible runner, and then getting into directing TV commercials. And that was fantastic because I could, practice, and, you're not always going to get a feature film. I mean, it's years of writing scripts and stuff like that. So it was, and in Perth, Western Australia, it felt like the Antarctica of the film world. So you're sort of, what do you do to work in the industry? Well, you can do commercials, and, And here you could do a lot of a diversity of them. So you weren't just the bloke who did shampoo ads or the guy that did, I don't know, dog ads or whatever.
Yeah.
You had to do all the different ads. So you got a bit of a variety of different films, and I just kept at it and at it and at it. And then, I started writing scripts, and because you're sort of forced to, because you want to, no one's going to give you a good script. You kind of create that yourself. So I wish I'd done that earlier, to be honest with you. But then these opportunities come and they go, and then you finally get a film off the ground, and then you in the meantime you develop other films and hope that all gets you can move on to another one, mate.
With your film that we're obviously going to be promoting now, and everyone's going to be talking about Great White, is this your full? I hope I'm correct here. Your full feature debut.
It is.
Yeah.
So it was the first time, and it was shot in Queensland, Australia, and it was 25 days shoot, and it was lucky I had a really passionate cast who were, willing to get their hands dirty and wanted to, become, really involved in the action and were willing to take risks and get out there. And because, we were shooting on water, and it's so tough on water.
Yeah.
So because you've got tides, you got wind, you got rain, you got everything that comes at you. And so you got 25 days. So, when something stops, like, get those hours back, you used to try and find it the next other day. So, you're dealing with a lot of stuff out of your control. I mean, that's everyday filmmaking, but particularly on the water. So for example, if you're shooting like out in deep water, you've got to be on boats. We had a lot of stuff where we were shooting on lifeboats, a life raft. So we were, shooting quite shallow water. So the cameraman could be, standing and shooting. And I found that soon as we shifted from that type of style and went deeper, it probably took 50% longer. So you're always up against the elements. And so that's when, I had a really tremendous crew, really dedicated professionals. So that really helped. And, and great stuntmen, and just everyone was really, really good on the shoot. So we still, even though we only had 25 days, we obviously maximized every second that we could, and it was a lot of fun,
I mean, you talked about how you went from doing commercials and shorts and stuff, but this is your first full.
Yeah.
How did you make that jump? Because that's hell of a lot. Most people do music videos and shorts, but you went then.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do the whole shebang.
Well, I did. It took 20 years. It took 20 years of commercials, and I did do short films. I did that went to America, and one film I did called "Wait Till Your Father Gets Home," where I was actually in Boston, and I had a flight booked from Boston to Los Angeles on September 11, and I changed it the day before. So rather than going on September 11, I went on September 10, same flight, same everything. And so we survived September 11 by just changing it.
That's crazy.
Yeah, the last moment, and I've still got the ticket.
I was literally going to say, is it a bit morbid, but did you keep that ticket? Because that's kind of like Final Destination moment.
Yeah, I've got the ticket, and it was like, wow. And so I came back, and I was, because when we were in the hotel room, we were looking at the Twin Towers, and one of them was burning, and it's just a strange image.
Yeah.
And then another one's burning. You go, how's that possible? And then it all unfolds, and then you see, or they start flashing up the flights that hit, and the one that I was supposed to be on, was the second tower. And so everyone back home, I'd told them, lucky I'd told my parents the night before, I'd gone earlier, but you couldn't ring out. It was just, so it's quite a while ago. So the technology is not what it was now, so it was a crazy, crazy experience. But so that like doing the commercials where you're doing that all the time, you're practicing, and then you're doing your short films, and then I did a 50-minute film for the TV stations here. But then it took me ages, mate, to actually get to the feature film, because the hardest thing for any first-time feature director is someone's going, okay, I'm going to trust you from, until you're a feature film director, it's kind of chicken before the egg. They're never going to give you the money. But how do you become a director? Unless you do what a Kevin Smith does and goes and shoots something, for 10,000, does Clerks, or Rodriguez, he goes and gets experimented on and has $7,000 and makes his film. You know what I mean? It's like, it's really tough for first-time directors, obviously, because we're trying to prove to someone that we can do it. And then you finally get the chance. You just got to hang in there long enough. So it's taken me a lot of time just to keep working on my skills, try and, work on my script writing and work on my, craft elements with all the actors and everything, because without the script and without the actors, you kind of really laid bare, particularly when you don't have a lot of money and, you're up against it in terms of time. So it's just taken so long. And so I guess for me, it was through the commercials, I had the relationship with the producers who had known me for 20 years. And then I had that element of trust, and they backed me, so you just get those one or two people that get in your corner just at the right time. But that took 20 years.
So how do you mentally find that determination to keep bouncing back and keep being persistent? Because I've had a lot of up and coming directors and filmmakers on this podcast, and how many people, the majority will just crumble at the first or second hurdle because it's too much of a challenge. And it's like, oh, I didn't get to make my film in the first year, so I gave up. Or I went to film school, my parents supported me, I went to make my film, but I couldn't get the budget, so I thought, fuck it, and I got a different job. And I'm like, you're there for 2 decades fighting, keeping going, how do you mentally keep that up?
When I was sick, I just developed you just develop a thick skin and a determination, and I don't know where it comes from. I grew up in it's funny, in Perth there's these suburbs called Kundula, Girraween and Balga, and it's called the KGB. Right. And it's like a very harsh neighborhood. So I grew up with having to have grit, basically. Yeah. And so you're going to need a ton of grit to keep going in the arts. And so it just came from my upbringing in that area, and then just having just an absolute desire, I suppose, and a passion to make films, which came from, and I'm so glad you asked me all those questions about all those films, because it came from the love of those movies. Yeah. And a passion inside of you that will push through all these horrible or tough, lonely or times, or the multiple rejections that you're going to cop. And you get the resilience, and you get the reward of sticking it out. And then, so it's finally sort of happened, I guess. And then you hope that you get the next opportunity, so you just, and that's right. You could get so close, and just at the last moment, you might give up, and then you'll never know. So if you keep going, then you might just get through that next hurdle, and then you never know. But look, it is, I won't say it's easy, but it was just, every moment is grit. Every moment is like, how do you bounce out of bed? You want to bounce out of bed today. So what have you got going? You're not going to a 9-to-5 office. You don't have the structure. Some people love structure, and they want to, and I get it. Many days you go, maybe you should chuck it in and just get a easy 9-to-5 job. But then what would that do to your dreams and your hopes and stuff that you have been creating since you were a kid, and that you were, wanting to achieve? And and like, do you want to meet these guys, or what do you want to manifest? What do you want to create in your life? And I think in filmmaking, like, be creative, have an imagination, and see yourself there, and then try and bring the future into the present if you can. But yeah, knowing that it does take time, but I think it happens for a reason too, because you need all that experience to deal with the pressure on the day. And it's the film set alone is not for the faint-hearted, because there's so many things, you're getting pulled in so many directions, and you have to be able to work. I think the most important thing is working as a team, and it being collaborative, and being able to listen to others is probably the most important thing. And fighting for what you want. So choosing your battles, and that on the set, it's just like magnified, because the pressure on everyone is like, you've got no time. So what are you going to do? Give this shot up, or do you want that shot? What are you going to do? And you go, oh my God, so experience helps you. You go, okay, well, yeah, I know I can still edit this together without that shot. Do I need to really stick to that? You know what I mean? So it's like, if you had done that 20 years ago, what would you have done? Would you have melted, and the whole film would have been such a disaster that you would never have made another one? So I guess for me, it's just been, I'm thankful that I've got more experience and wisdom to try and make better decisions, so I can actually have a career.
So after this 20-year wait, and obviously the persistence and doing these shorts and doing all the commercials, and you've got this, golden ticket to make this shark film, go there for 25 days. Were you, I know it's a long time coming and you got there, but were you mentally prepared? Like, when you got there, as of course you've got experience, of course you've got the skills, you've got the tools, you've got the team, but was there this kind of moment when you're there and you're like, the realization of, Christ, I'm here as the kind of head of all this, and I am like an egg timer is in front of me, and I need to make sure that this. Was there a bit where you kind of thought, fucking hell, what have I done?
Absolutely, because you're only human, you just go, holy fuck. I mean, it was, the moment, I reckon, mate, Mark, it was when I saw all the catering tents and all the trucks.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of them, and you go, oh shit, they're here for me to make make good decisions.
Yeah.
Like, help everyone and make good decisions and be a good leader and da. But hey, holy shit. Like, and I was coming from Perth to Brisbane. So I was the new kid on the block. So, I mean, I had to make sure that I was, winning friends and influencing people. So, the whole thing stood together. So I tried to make myself mentally prepared before I went over. When I got there, I was like, okay, I'll just keep doing the best I can. But of course, I was scared. I was, every night I was going, what the hell am I going to do tomorrow to make up for the time? And I was seriously under the pump and scared. And but again, I just drew back to my childhood and the resilience, and like, if I can overcome that, then I can hold it together. And mate, the last day and finishing was like, I just couldn't believe it. Going back on the ferry on the water, going, hey, like, gosh, those 25 days, they went slowly, but they also went bloody fast as well. So so you're like you're in a prison. So every night you mark, okay, I got through that day, and now I'm going to get through the next day. So it's really taxing, because like on a commercial, for example, you might shoot for one day, and you're drilling into it, and you bang, and the next couple of days you can probably chill out and think about it. But on a 25-day thing, you're every day, you're like bang, 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 making sure that you're making sure every scene is possibly the best you can be, because you're not going to be going back. And then you're going to be sitting in an edit suite at one point going, oh shit, I could have done that, or I should have done that. So you're trying to minimize those things, So yeah.
So once the film was finished and you said you were heading back on the ferry and it was all done and
Yeah.
you knew you had the edit and stuff to do.
Yeah.
The difficult thing is, and I'm saying this with full respect, is the moment anybody releases a film that's about a shark. So in the last few years, we've had The Meg, we've had Bates, we've had stuff like Deep Blue Sea. All the films, as soon as you read on any review site like Rotten Tomatoes or IMDb, the first thing you ever get is it's not Jaws. You know, it's
yeah,
and
absolutely.
you know, I've seen some films recently and had directors on from stuff like 47 Meters Down, which I think is a bloody good film, and I've got full respect for that, you know. But you're instantly kind of against everybody because you've tried to attempt to make Jaws, which I know you didn't, but that's what everyone is. It's like, why would you try and make something when the absolute perfection of film has already been produced? Why would you even try and ever replicate another film anywhere like it? So I know you didn't make a film about three guys going on an orca to try and attack a great white, but you are instantly kind of against all the roles in the world.
I know, and it's just, and you try not to read it. I mean, I've read a few before, which were making me laugh, but and some were making me cry. But it's like, what can you do? Like, you know, you just absolutely know you're up against it. And of course, you love Jaws. It's an amazing film, and then you read the original Guardian review of the Jaws, you know, and it's like Robert Shaw, his performance is ridiculous, you know, and he's like Captain Hook, and he's this and that, and you're like, God, I love Robert Shaw in that film, and I love his performance.
Yeah.
Why did the Guardian say that then? You know what I mean? Like, so of course it's a masterful film, and you know, so you straight away you're not trying to be Jaws, you know, as you're saying, everyone is going fuck you, and they're going to try and, you know, now I understand. When I was making it, I was like, I can't think about that right now. I've got to do it.
Yeah.
But then when you get hit with all this stuff, it's like, okay, well, you know, like, and in some ways, I think someone told me the best way to deal with it is just like, well, yeah, you know, it's going to be out there, and the internet's a really brutal place. And so maybe there's a little bit of like, you know, you're doing okay when you're getting all these trolls in a way, you know what I mean? If you could try and take it with that attitude, maybe.
But to be completely fair, I do a lot of research when I get a guest on here, and I've spent a long time reading IMDb. And do you know what? As much as it's difficult, and even with the podcast on iTunes, if I get 100 people tell me it's their favorite podcast, the one person I've never met who says Mark and Me is shit, it will eat away at me, it will upset me, it will get to me, and I forget the 100 people that said it's great.
Yeah.
Your film reviews at the moment, yes, let's not completely ignore the elephant in the room. Some people are saying absolute awful, can't believe it's another shark film. But the people that have actually spent the time watching it and not just judged it by a poster have actually said, do you know what? I don't understand these low reviews. This is a great film. It's a lot of fun. It's 90 minutes of entertainment, and it's exactly what I wanted. And those people are actually really singing your praises.
Thanks, mate. Well, they're the ones, but you're true. Like for me, it is, you know, like, some of the things that have been said, and your mind goes there as a human.
Yeah.
Like the same thing is like, holy shit, when I went on the set, I was like, I'm scared. I'm like, you know, you'd be lying if you wouldn't be telling the truth. You know what I mean? So it's really nice to get that back from friends, because they ground you and they go, okay, yes, look, man, that's always going to be the case. But the people that do take the time, because you know, by saying that, that's what they've done, by actually really looking at going, hey, and the things that they're critiquing, you as the director didn't have the control over. Do you know what I mean? So you may, okay, well, I did the best and I was polishing everything I could, you know? And you go, okay, that's fair. Like, you know, and you go, thanks. You almost want to write back to them and go, oh, you know, thank you for actually taking the time.
Yeah.
And actually understanding what the movie is. You know, it is different from Jaws or 47 Meters Down or The Shallows. You know, there's some good movies in there that are smart, intelligent thrillers. You know, like you can put a shark film on it and there's a shark in there and you're going to be a target because once you go there. you do look at those. You try and take in those good bits where they're actually going, hey man, well done for this, this, and this, and you go, hey, that's exactly what I was trying to do in those 25 days, and in all the days in the edit suites and all the choices that you're making. That was what I was trying to do. And oh man, I wish I could really just focus on that all the time.
Yeah.
But, of course, I'm vulnerable like anyone else to all that other stuff, and I just got to make sure that you do that, and then you've got all the other things that you're trying to do, and all the other stuff that you're working with, and all the great people out there that are supporting you. And that's where you try and take your focus, when you're going to get smashed, and you just try your best to, I read another good review just before as well, which was really fair, and so, the film wasn't there to be Yentl or My Dinner at Andre or,
Yeah.
it's there to be, it's a survival thriller. We're looking at, suspense, and we're looking at crafting that type of deal the best we could with what we had. And I went in with it honestly going, you know what? No one cares how many days you had. They don't care how much money you had. And I knew that, but you still make mistakes. You know what I mean? Even when you know that. So it was just like, I honestly tried my 100% best I could. And that's what I did,
And that's why you should be proud. And, exactly. If you went in there and you half-hearted it and were like, that'll do, and the studio will put it out, whatever, then you kind of, you deserve to be, told you're shit and all this. But the fact that you worked your ass off and you were proud, and that's important. And now the film's out there and it's finished, and you can't suddenly go back in the edit suite and change something, or you've accepted that's it. Your hands are tied now. It's finished.
Yeah.
What's the kind of biggest lesson or the thing that you're now ready to change when it comes to making your next film? What's the thing that you will do differently from the whole experience of Great White?
Oh, it's such an awesome question, man. I'm still trying to figure a lot of that out, because it's just everything happens actually seemingly it takes a long time, but it also happens fast as well when you're trying to think about what you want. To me personally, this every area I'm trying to get better at. So it's just how can I improve the script writing? How can I improve how do I take full responsibility? To me, it's like I want to take full responsibility. I'll cop it in the neck, no worries. But I don't want to blame anyone else, so I want to be better at every element I could get better at, but you have to go through these things in order to do that. It's like a hardcore, but I'd be more vigilant on certain effects things, and I would just, I don't know, I'd love to go back to the edit, of course.
Yeah.
That's what's such a great question. And then you go, why didn't you tell me that before? I could have changed it then, but you get caught up in an edit because then you have to lock it off. So there's time pressures, shit.
Yeah, I've had quite a few editors on here and cinematographers and people behind the scenes and even artists who are drawing the movie posters. And one of the questions I've said to a few of them is, how do you know when your product or your latest release is finished? Because as an editor for a podcast, I could sit here and edit me and you and take out every breath that sounds slightly wrong, every little bit that doesn't quite sound right, but then it ends up not sounding real and it sounds artificial. Now with a film, you said you'd love to still be in the suite now, editing away and reading reviews and then making changes, but there's a point where you have to say to yourself, look, this is it. This is the final line. I need to cross it. And as a filmmaker, especially when it's your first feature film that's got 25 days on set and isn't just you, it's a team of production and actors. How do you know when it's like, I know you're in the edit suite, but there's got to be a point where you have to accept and let go.
Yeah. Yeah, you get so much notes from all the studios and the producers, and you try and, you know what, I try and embrace those 100%. And because sometimes they're bloody good, you know, so I don't go in with it like, oh no, here's some more goddamn notes. I gotta, and then I'll try and find a gem in those notes, which go, oh, thank you for giving me these notes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I couldn't see the forest from the trees. I was so bloody caught up in everything and too close to it. And I try and bring people in, friends, and that go, tell me tell me what I'm doing wrong here. So when I do lock it off, I'll be totally satisfied. And it still didn't work. So, you know, like, so you just, you know, you got to come to an end and stuff. And you know what? I have learnt from this, you know, like, you know, and I have learnt so much. And I've learnt before the movie started, doing the during the movie, and doing the edit. And now I'm learning all this other stuff that when it hits distribution and the net, I'm learning all about that and how to navigate all of that. So yeah, like, and hopefully I'll be better at dealing with that next time, you know? So it's really fascinating, the journey you go through. And, you know, like, yeah, I want to be like, I see people that want to get in the film industry, and I go, what do you want to do? Nearly 90%, I want to be a director. And so I'm thinking to myself, okay, do you want to go for 20 years? Or, you know what I mean? Like, you know, that it's like, okay, it's, and I hope you do, like, you know what I mean? But I know it's going to be a tough road because I've had to travel it. And yeah, I just can't believe the learning that you go through. Like every second can be a punish until you try and master some of these things. But, you know, next time I'll add breaks, you know, like I'll be like rigorous on every freaking line of dialogue and every performance, which I thought we were doing on this one. Like I was rigorous and trying everything, you know, but it's like next time maybe try it this way or do something else. I don't know, like.
But isn't it reassuring that even though you've gone through all this experience, and sometimes it's so challenging and it can be such an uphill struggle, you're not put off and you're ready for the next one?
Yeah, it's just because, you know, it's the good people you meet as well. You try and make, you know, I try and make friends from these experiences, you know, like, and I've made friends with all the actors. I spoke to all of them today, and they're all good. They're right behind the film and behind me and stuff. And that's really nice, because we all know the stories of film sets been a catastrophe, you know, and a horrible place. And well, you don't want to spend 6 weeks somewhere it doesn't work. And that's just a terrible thing to do to yourself. So that emboldens you as well as the people you meet on the way and the lifelong friends that, hey, I'll do this again because I could make more friends, or I could, you know, learn some more stuff. So yes, it was very tough, and there's no doubt when I came back to Perth, I kissed the ground. when I got to the airport, you know, I was like, oh, I'm home, thank God, you know. But I reflect upon it. It was tough as hell, but it was so worth it. So worth it. You know?
You kind of just touched upon this, and I ask this to everyone. It doesn't matter if they're a world famous actor or an up and comer, but a lot of people that listen to the Mark and Me podcast are people that are going to film school or are sitting at home with some equipment and a textbook and some YouTube videos that want to become someone in the film industry. So normally a director or a editor. Now, not everybody gets it on a plate. You're not going to have a career like J.J. Abrams, where you get to do Star Wars, Star Trek, and all this. And, you know, Spielberg was very lucky, and, you know, not lucky in the way that he didn't work for it, but, you know, to have Duel and then the success of Duel, it was a really good road for him. He didn't have 20 years wait.
No, he had the right producers, and they saw that Duel was a great. I mean, he made the making of Duel is. Yeah. I tell everyone to watch that making of, because he had 12 days and he was so clever. Like, God, he was smart in that film, you know?
And at the same time, you know, Jaws I think anyone else would have walked off set and quit. You read the stories about what happened, you know, most people would say, fuck this, I'm not doing it. It's gone over. It's not going to happen. I'm not working with these robotics, and I'm gone. Fuck this. But What advice do you give to people that are listening today that have to be patient, that want to become a filmmaker, and I want you to be real about it and tell them what it actually takes, because it isn't a case of buy a digital 8 camera or buy yourself a 4K iPhone and go outside and make the next Blair Witch. It's what do you say to those people that want to get their work seen and bloody have that chance to take that step?
I think it's all about they're just, if they have a passion which is just undeniable inside them, they will get there, because it will just drive them. It will just keep them going even through the worst bits, in that sense. Like if you find a passion in anything, you will keep going. And in the arts, you will need to find that drive inside you, which makes you just go, I just can't do anything else in my life. I don't care what the hell's going on. It's just something that just I've fallen in love with this thing, and it will force me to have years of seeing my friends move past me in many ways in life, in terms of building life and career and families, because you can't necessarily do that in filmmaking, but you will get there because you'll have a passion that is undeniable. And I think the best advice I give is to anyone is you just be nice to people all the time. If you do that, people will like you, and they will give you opportunities where you didn't think they were going to be. Like
I get that a lot. I hear that a lot. A lot of people, even if you're just a runner on set, just respect everyone around you. Do anything for anyone, and don't be a prick.
Because it's just, I think some of the most successful people are the nicest people in the world. Because they don't have anything to prove, and they want to help others. I think helping others and thinking of others is the most important thing. It always goes a long way, and eventually it will turn your way. So I just think I don't believe in hierarchies, because I think film sets are quite hierarchical. I know they are, but I don't consider myself anyone special or anyone different to anyone else. And it gets back to my philosophy that a film set is a very collaborative place where you want to be really nimble, and you want to be listening to others and getting the best idea out there. And it's going to be better for the film and better for everyone, and including you as the director. Hey, so what? Because the more you like that, the more people they'll do so much more for you. You get so much more bees with honey. People, because often you don't have the money and stuff. So how are you going to get people to do stuff for you when you're starting out? Is be great to be around, and people will hang around with you and shoot your film with you. No one wants to be around a jerk, and it's an egotistical jerk. That doesn't, the auteur thing, it just kind of doesn't fly. You know what I mean? For me, is the best advice I can give is that, it's like, just be yourself and be nice and be, and get people encouraged and involved in your own passions, and you will go out and make films, because there's actors that want to do that. There's someone that wants to do something else, and you find a team of people that you will grow up with and work with.
And my very final question today, and it's putting you on the spot. What I do on the Mark and Me podcast to make it a bit different and stand out from others is the outro music to every single episode, and we're 140 episodes in now, gets chosen by the guest that's on the podcast.
Awesome.
So on the spot, and I've done it to Anthony Hopkins, I've done it to Mads Mikkelsen, Kevin, all of them.
So cool.
No one gets a get out of prison card. You don't get time to come back to me. I'm going to ask you the question, and I want you to go with what comes to your heart and soul. So the episode's finished. We've edited it. Thanks, Martin, for coming on the podcast. Outro, and then the music comes in. You can choose one piece of music by any artist, a band, a score from a film, a piece of music, or the fucking song that you love. But what's the song, when I ask the question, that comes to your heart, your head, your soul straight away that you think that's my song?
I reckon it is by a guy called Ron Granger, who was an Australian guy, and he did the original score to the Amiga Man.
Oh, nice.
Right, and it's like the I've got it here on the tumbrel. You'll find it. It's the most amazing score you'll ever hear, in my mind.
And is there a certain piece of music from there that you want to use, or?
Yeah, like I just love. There's this one track called on the tumbril, Tumbril. Yeah, Ron Grainer.
Perfect.
Unbelievable, man. Great score. And I hope to be on again. I've got so many projects, and I just love talking to you, mate. That was awesome. Your questions are so heartfelt and so cool, and it makes you really want to, give and yeah, it's really good, man.
It never feels like work, my friend. I don't do it. I don't make money off it. I don't do it for a living, and I don't get sponsorship. So I do it because I want fans out there and people, everyday people, to walk into work or on the bus, and they just get to hear two people passionate about things they enjoy.
Yeah. Oh, it was so cool. It was so good, mate. Oh, man. I feel enlivened now.
No, that's good. That's good.
I've got my next, which is the Werewolves on the Plane, and I've got other, the big cat thing in Australia where there's cats, the Black Panthers roaming around. I know that's in the UK as well, but I've got the Stand By Me, Ghost in the Darkness version of that. So there's some really hoping all these things come to fruition, but these good fun genre pieces to come. And I'd love to talk about more stuff, but yeah, so awesome to talk to you, Mark. And
no, it's a pleasure.
You're doing a brilliant job, buddy.
I appreciate your time.
Thanks, mate.
And
awesome.
I mean what I say. I enjoy this, and I will keep in contact.
Thank you so much, Mark.
So there it is. There's my interview with me and Martin Wilson. And as I said at the start of today's episode, which I truly mean, it's one of my favourite ever interviews that I've done on this podcast. I absolutely adore it. It's so real, it's so genuine, it's just him and me talking, and the conversation just went in all different places, and the whole time I was absolutely buzzing. So a huge thanks for him for coming on the show and talking all about Great White. I hope you guys have enjoyed it just as much as me, and honestly, I appreciate every single one of you for taking the time to listen to the podcast. At the moment, it's absolutely insane, and the podcast is hosted on Amazon Music, Spotify, Podomatic, iTunes, all the different various places that you'd expect the podcast to be, but that takes money. And honestly, with this podcast, I really do rely heavily on my Patreon. I've seen it grow quite a lot over the last couple of weeks, but I need it to keep on growing. If you've really enjoyed today's episode and you're not actually quite familiar with Patreon, I just want to take a second to explain exactly what I'm asking. If you love this podcast and you really wanted to support it, you can go on the Patreon page, and there's a link on that on markandme.com. You're probably thinking, what the hell's Patreon? It's literally just like saying, thanks so much for this episode, here's a couple of quid, or let me buy you a coffee. It's the equivalent of that. It goes a massive way and helps me go out there and host the podcast on all these different directories. It also allows me to travel the country and take time out to do these interviews, which I'm now doing 2 or 3 episodes every single week. So you might think, God, he mentions this on every episode. Without that, I can't do this podcast. So that's why it's so important. But if you just want to enjoy the podcast and not support me, hey, just share the episode. Jump on markandme.com, because on there's links to my Facebook, my Twitter and my Instagram. It costs nothing to retweet or share it on your Instagram or put it on your Facebook page. That's such a huge tool for this podcast and how I reach a whole brand new audience. So please take the time to do that. It's free and goes a huge, huge way. I want to say a massive thanks as well to the guys at vicepress.com. They are absolutely amazing. Those guys donate amazing pictures, posters, artwork every single episode, and if you jump onto the website and go on the social media links, you'll see some of the prizes that are up for grabs this week. Also, Last Exit to Nowhere, who are easily the best t-shirt company in the world, have donated an incredible Jaws t-shirt to tie in with the shark theme of this episode. so check out those sites this week to find out how to win these. I'll be back in only a couple of days' time with a brand new episode, so until then, look after yourself, take care, and I'll see you all soon.